Hello everyone. In this tutorial, we will be discussing about the HP IDOL OnDemand API. In this tutorial, we will focus mainly on indexing API. First, create text index API. Second, object store. Third, add to text index. Fourth, view document API. Fifth, find related concepts. And lastly, find similar API. I will show how to use these API in Python language and implement simple functions using this in Python. So, let's get started. Before we move further and discuss more on programming side of IDOL API, I believe it's a good idea to take a small tour of HP IDOL OnDemand. For those who have already signed up for an IDOL account, may skip this and can directly jump to programming in IDOL API. Whenever you first visit the IDOL web page, you are required to sign up. Sign up button is located at top right. It will ask you to fill few details. Okay, once sign up is done, next, you will log in by clicking on login button. Since I already signed up, I will directly jump to login. There are various login options for you, like Google, Yahoo, Facebook, Twitter. I have my Google account linked with IDOL, so I will click on Google and will proceed to next. Once you log into your account, you should click on Get an API Key. You need this API key for your account. It's a token which is required while calling any API. You can manage your account by clicking on Account tab at top right. You can see various options you can manage your API key, check your usage for any particular API key, and many more. Let's try one of them. Okay, let's click on Create and manage your own text indexes. Wait, meanwhile, it gets loaded. Okay. As you can see, I have one text index, which I created, named as Cancer Prevention. You can get further details on your particular text index, by clicking against the name of your text index. Lastly, now, we will have a quick look at API page, before moving on to programming for IDOL API. Okay, so, from this API page, we can see all the APIs available in IDOL. There are a lot of useful APIs. Let's examine one of these API. Let's go to OCR Document API. This is an overview page of OCR API, which is giving us all the necessary information about this API. Now, let's move to Request tab. This page is giving us the information, which we need to send during our POST REST call, while calling this API. Remember, this is the URL which we need to pass to call this API. You can choose either of the asynchronous or synchronous, depending on your application. Now, let's move to Response tab. As you can see, the response, which we get from this API, will be our nice formatted friend JSON. You can see the exact structure by scrolling down. So, this winds up our small tour of IDOL OnDemand API. Now, we will look into the programming aspect of IDOL API. So, let's go ahead. Before starting our Python programming, you need to install requests package in Python. I am currently showing the documentation page and the URL of requests bundle. It's better if you first install it and then begin next slide. Okay, once requests package is installed, we can go ahead in our code. You can see, I have defined a common URL, with one field left as blank, inside curly braces. This value will get filled during runtime. Next, I have initialized API to my API key. Inside this, you should put your API key of IDOL account, which has already been discussed in our tour to IDOL part of this video. Now, let's look at our POST requests method. It takes 3 arguments. First one is function, which is the name of the called API. It is this value, which will get filled in our common URL. For instance, function value for find similar is find similar, and for OCR document is OCR document. Second parameter is data. This includes all additional parameters required for calling any particular API. Third parameter passed to this function is files. Files parameter is included whenever we send any file to an API. Inside this function, we have added the key value pair of API key in data variable, with key as API and value as API key of idle. This is necessary and will always be there whenever an API is called. In this line we are now setting URL value, by calling inbuilt method, format, in Python. This is done to assign the value of our function variable to the empty space in our URL, inside curly braces. We have assigned a new URL to a new variable named callURL. Next, we are calling post, a REST method, which is there as part of package request, by passing the appropriate parameters. I hope till now everything seems simple. Let's move on. Okay, so till now we have covered the general part for all API. Now, let's talk about one API at a time. Our first goal here is to execute a create a text index, using IDOL OnDemand API create text index call. The create text index API allows you to create a text index that you can use to add your own content to IDOL OnDemand. You specify a name for the text index, which you can use to access data for future operations. Let's look at create text index method. Here we are passing two additional parameter with key as flavor and index, with their values as explorer and cancer prevention. An explorer configuration can accept up to 25,000 documents. Index key value is cancer prevention, which is nothing but the name of our index, which we need while calling this index in future. Here we have called post requests method, by sending the parameters, create text index as string, and data variable. If you want to see whether index is set or not, you should see the indexes in your account by going to your account and manage. This API returns a JSON document with keys as type, properties and index. Properties contains a nested JSON document, with key as message and value as whether it is success or not. Index key also contains a nested JSON document with type as key and name of index as its value. The call stack will be, first main, then create text index method and after that post requests method. Okay, now let's run this program and see the output. Our next goal is to upload the document in the URL, to the IDOL OnDemand database using the Store Object API. The Store Object API takes a file, reference, or an input URL and stores the contents of the document for use in other APIs. It returns the object store reference, which you can pass to other APIs to process the document that you store. Let's look at Store Object method now. Here we are passing only one additional parameter with key as URL, and its value as the address of URL in single quotes. This is the address of document, which we want to add to our IDOL database using Store Object API for future reference. The value returned from Store Object method is a JSON document with only one key, which is reference and its value, which we will use, whenever we want to call or refer this document for future purpose. Here, the call stack is, first main, then Store Object method and after that post requests method. Okay. Now let's run this program and see the output. So, let's move to our next goal. Our goal here is to add to text index, where we will map the reference, which we created in last API call to index cancer prevention which we have created in step 1. The add to text index API allows you to add content to a text index that you have set up. The API indexes your content and makes it available for use in other APIs, such as query text index, find similar, and find related concepts. Now, let's look at add to text index method. This method takes reference as an argument which we will pass to this API. Here we are passing two additional parameter with keys as reference and index, and values as reference which we got from store object method and name of index, that is cancer prevention, which we have created using create text index method respectively. The value returned from add to text method is a JSON structure with two documents. The first one is index key and its value is index name on which we are doing indexing. In this case, it should be cancer prevention. The second key is reference, which contains a nested JSON document with keys as references and ID respectively. Okay, now let's run this program and see the output. Okay, now, let's move to our next goal. Our goal here is to execute a view document call and at the same time, highlighting the phrase physical activity in the document. We should also make sure that our output is in the raw HTML format. The View Document API allows you to render documents into HTML, and highlight text in the document. It uses HP KeyView to extract the contents of over 500 different file formats, and convert them to HTML. Now, let's take a look at View Document method. This method takes reference as an argument which we will pass to this API. Here we are passing four additional parameter with keys as reference, highlight expression, raw HTML and start tag. First key is reference and its value is reference number which we got from store object API. Second one is highlight expression with value as physical activity. Here, we want to highlight physical activity, so the value of highlight expression is physical activity. Third key is raw HTML and its value is boolean true. We want our output in raw HTML format, and therefore raw HTML is set to true. Fourth key is start tag which is required to show effect of highlighted text. Here we are using bold character IEB inside angular brackets as our start tag. It is very important to note here that, since we are using raw HTML as true, we won't be getting output in JSON format. So, we don't need to convert our result into JSON. If we try to do that, we will run into errors. We will get HTML document as the output. Okay, now let's run this program and see the output. Since the output of this document is huge, I am not able to show you my highlighted text, as the top part of the output is being cropped in my screen. I will show you how the highlighted text will appear in HTML. We can test the highlighting on string healthy, which is appearing in my output window. Okay, so let me do small change. Okay. Done. Now let's run this code. Now, our goal is to execute find related concepts call against Wikipedia, using the cancer prevention document as input. Also, we need to display all the documents returned from this method. The find related concepts API returns a list of the best terms and phrases in query result documents. You provide query text, which defines the set of documents that you want to describe, and the response returns a list of terms and phrases that occur in these documents. Now, let's look into our find related concepts method. First, this method takes reference as an argument which we will pass to this API. Here we are passing two additional parameter. First key is indexes with value wiki-ang. This is the index of the IDOL database, from which result will be fetched. Second key is reference and its value is reference number of cancer prevention document. The value returned from find related concepts method is a JSON document with entities string as key and array of nested JSON document as its value. Okay, Now let's run this program and see the output. Let's move on. Okay, so this is our last goal here, which is to execute a find similar documents API call against the news database using one of the related concepts. The find similar API returns documents in the IDOL on-demand databases that are similar to text or a document that you provide. You can either submit text, an index reference, a file, an object store reference, or a URL. Now, let's move our focus to find similar method. Here, find similar method is taking output of find related concepts method as its input parameter. Now, we fetch the entity's key value from result and assign to docs variable. If there are no documents, we are printing sorry message. Here, we have analyzed the number of documents and appropriately sets the element to our variable named answer. Okay, now our data is ready. In this method, we are passing two additional parameter. First one is text with its value as the text key of variable answer, which we have computed above with help of find related concepts method. This will give the API, the content for which we are looking for similar content inside news database. Second key is indexes and its value is news English. It is this index, from which the similar content will be fetched. This API key will return a JSON document, with many key value pairs. You can print each document by traversing the entire loop, and printing document, one by one. Okay, so now run this code and see the output. Congratulations! I hope you must have enjoyed this video tutorials which is termed as indexing for HP IDOL API. For more information, you can go to API and can explore more. Also, later if you have any doubts, post on discussion forums. My personal experience at discussion forum in HP IDOL is pretty good. The reply is also pretty fast. Congratulations again for completing this video tutorial. Thanks for watching.